All right, today we are going to be going to Jet's Pizza, starting from Park here. This is a Hardware 4 Model Y on FSD version 14.1.4. Able to start from Park, so that's nice. Going to try to go parking space to parking space. I will put it in Sloth for the neighborhood. So I wanted to go the speed limit in the neighborhood. Speed limit in the neighborhood is 25. Hopefully it will stick to that speed. I don't like it when it goes a lot faster than that. So the speed is just given a 30 mile per hour speed limit here on the display. So we didn't see any speed limit signs yet. I know that it's in the neighborhood. There's one right up here that is 25, and it immediately changed to 25 once it saw that speed limit sign. So I'm starting to think that if it's a certain kind of road that it's not sure about, that it defaults to 30 miles per hour. Somebody suggested that it always reads the signs, and it did read the sign in that case, once it saw a sign. However, it would be nice if it was based on map data, because this road that we're pulling out onto is 45 miles per hour. Now, if I pull out a different part of the neighborhood, it will default it to 30 miles per hour. We're going to see if it has 45 here, and it does. So there has to be some element of map data based on this road, I would think, because the speed limit sign is not until up there. You can't tell me that it saw that all the way where we turned out, because it was over the hill. You couldn't see it physically. So that's one thing that I have been having trouble with, is it basically picking the wrong speed. I'm going to go ahead and switch it up to standard. But when we would go out of the exit here, it would default it to 30 miles per hour, and I'd have to put it in Mad Max in order for it to drive a reasonable speed on this road, because if you're going 30 miles per hour on a 45 mile per hour road, obviously that's dangerous, because people are going to be coming up on you really fast. So I'm trying to figure out why it is that sometimes it will default to a 30 miles per hour, and I'm starting to think that, again, maybe the 30 miles per hour is like the default speed if it's not really sure what the speed limit is at that point. But they really should be using map data to, supplement what the car can see as the speed limit for the speed limit sign. I think that map data should be pretty reliable for the speed. And then again, you could supplement it with actually seeing a speed limit sign. Now, when we came up to this stoplight here, and still actually it's stuttering. Start, stop, start, 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 stop. So that's the thing that we've been having trouble with on 14.1.4. 14.1.7 is now out in some of the early release people, and apparently wide release for Cybertrucks. So that has gotten good reviews about it being much smoother and not having any of those start, stop situations where it just seems like it has some indecision. So that's still what we're dealing with here on 14.1.4. But I also wanted to figure out some of that speed limit stuff. So that road back there that's 45, depending on where you start out on that road, it will say 45 in one instance and 30 in another. So I'm not fully convinced that it's not using map data to some degree, but at the same time, it definitely reads the signs. When you see a speed limit sign, it does definitely switch to that speed limit. Even on the interstate, though, it'll see the minimum speed of 40. It will decide that that's not the speed it should go, because that's definitely inappropriate. But it will list it as the speed limit as 40 miles per hour. So I'm not sure yet. I mean, I'm all ears. If anybody knows for sure what Tesla is doing to determine the speed limit, whether it's a combination of the map data versus what the car sees, if they have a default speed that they set based on some sort of algorithm of like what the road looks like, or if it's all map data or if it's all vision, I don't know. So if anybody knows, I'm all ears. I'd be interested to hear. We've had really good luck with 14.1.4. Aside from the start-stop stuff, the speed profiles in conjunction with those speed limits and leaves blowing across the road. I haven't heard any reports yet on whether leaves blowing across the road causes problems for 14.1.7, but that should be easy enough to test once we do get that version of FSD. Maybe we'll get a leaf blower out, blow some leaves on the road as we drive by, and see what happens. But it definitely was annoying on our road trip recently, where we were on windy mountain roads, and in addition to it just, the curving back and forth, which was fine because it did take it at a reasonable speed, it would also be trying to swerve around leaves blowing and stopping for leaves. So it'd do like brake stutters for leaves blowing across the road. So inappropriate behavior, and it definitely made it hard to use. I had to turn it off a few times because of that. So really hoping that 14.1.7 solves that. We will see. I'm going to change the route here real quick, if it lets me. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and try that route instead, just to be a little bit of a different route. It hasn't had any trouble with changing routes immediately. So if it's in a lane it's already going to turn, then it will obviously follow through and turn. But as soon as you change the navigation, it immediately takes that new navigation if it's safe to proceed that way, and doesn't have any kind of confusion about what it's doing. So that's been really good. I still remember back in the day with earlier versions of FSD, it would get confused about lane selection there across the intersection there, because it does kind of curve across the intersection. It's amazing actually how much we've come along since those earlier versions of FSD. All right, it says it's 35 here, and yet it's going 46, and there's a cop pulling someone over. So I think my choice would actually be to slow down a bit, thinking that, yeah, it is 35, so we really shouldn't be going 45. I'm going to go ahead and put it in chill. Chill brings it down to 37. Yeah, so I mean, sometimes standard kind of goes a little bit faster than I would feel appropriate. 37 and a 35 is totally fine. 45 and a 35, I don't like. So, I mean, I guess you could call changing the speed profile an intervention. Of course, it was not required. It's really just a matter of preference. So, I guess it just depends on how you feel about whether that was an intervention or not. Okay. Start-stop situation. I didn't press the accelerator, but it was starting to get awkward there. That car was definitely not moving, so no big deal. Okay, a big bag in the road with trash goes around that, so that's nice. I definitely don't want to hit that. But yeah, it often happens at stop signs or right on red situations where the car kind of has an indecision. It's scared about what other cars may be doing, but it even does that sometimes when there's nobody around, no pedestrians, no cars or anything, and it'll just kind of start stop, and it just seems like it's undecided about whether it's safe to proceed, which is weird because, I mean, it was obviously safe to go, and that car was not making any movement whatsoever. Although if we had waited much longer or done any more weirdness like that, they probably would have started going, and then it would have been even more awkward. So, all right. Do have some cars over here on the left. Now we should be good after this one here. And it does go pretty quickly after that, so that's good. Now there's a speed limit sign there, so it immediately picked up that it was 35 miles per hour. People like to go more like 45 on this one, but speed limit is 35. We're almost at our destination. Should get a green arrow, hopefully, for this turn. And we might have been too late to get the green arrow. We might have to wait to turn. Yep. So no green arrow. We're going to have to wait. At this point, I would probably be going into the intersection because we do have a gap after that SUV. Okay. That's not bad. It went at a good time, so that's nice. It didn't wait until they were cleared before it went out in the intersection. It could see that there was going to be a gap, and then it went. And now we get to see whether it's going to pick an appropriate space to park in. A few handicap spots here, and it is going to back into a space. Okay. That works. Not a handicap space or anything, so I like that. All right. Well, pretty successful. Yeah, so I would call that a zero intervention drive. There was, again, I changed the speed profile. I did change the navigation, but again, those two were just preferences, and had no problems other than the stuttering and some of the decisions about the speed. Again, just stuff that they need to clear up with version 14.1.7, hopefully, or maybe it'll have to go to 14.1 or 14.2. So that would be my only complaint. So that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.